Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, and this is episode 52 of Azeroth United. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about the War Within Season 1 launch. Yay! Finally, we're here. We're also going to be doing a little bit about the WoW news. Of course, we had the big news of the 20th anniversary patch that came out last week. So we'll get into that and all of the World of Warcraft news. We've got classic news. We've got just a lot to talk about. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you have a particular topic you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the show and you're so inclined, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That really helps out our distribution. So if you are willing to do that, we'd be very, very grateful. It really makes it able for the podcast to be able to get to more people, to broaden the audience out. And we like that. We like to be able to have more listeners, more feedback, and just more people enjoying World of Warcraft, to be perfectly honest. So you can help that out by either putting a rating on Apple Podcast. A 5-star rating would be preferable, but vote with your heart. Just that's what you need to do. Or Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. All right, now that that's all out of the way, let me just do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in World of Warcraft before I get to the news. So yeah, I got to the Paladin to level 80, burned through that, which was fun. Okay, so first of all, Paladin healing, or I don't know if it's healing in general or just Paladin healing, it's really difficult to kind of keep up with everything going on. There's a lot of damage going out a la Dragonflight, but you don't heal for as much. I don't know. I'm worried that we're missing the mark a little bit on this whole healing dynamic change, tanking dynamic change. Tanks aren't as sturdy, and I think that maybe most tanks don't know that yet. So I'm a little nervous as to what's going to happen in Mythics this week and Mythic Plus next week. So that's going to be a big thing. And honestly, at this point, it's too late to fix anything that's going on. But all we can do is try to give some good feedback to Blizzard for Season 2 and hope that they can finally get this healer thing figured out. But I'm not holding out a lot of hope because, quite honestly, Blizzard does not have a great track record for healing. Healing has either been you've got to manage mana as a resource. Your health isn't the issue, or healing isn't the issue. It's managing your mana. Or what we had in Dragonflight, which was if you are not healing nonstop, people are going to die. Or everybody's healing themselves and you have to go do DPS, but then all of a sudden people are taking damage, but you're busy casting a DPS spell and now everyone's dying and they're like, healer, what were you doing? And it's like, you guys told me to damage. I didn't know any better. Yeah, that's, oh man. I just want to go and heal. I miss the old days of just standing there and casting Flash of Light over 1,000 times during a raid. Can't we get that back? Actually, no, please don't give us that back. That was terrible. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I got up to last week. I did do a little bit more on the Death Knight as far as rep and delves and dungeons and just more of the same. But perfectly honest, I haven't really had the heart to level up anymore. Also, so here I'm starting to notice the problems with warbands. So when you have an army of alts like I do, the idea of having multiple alts at different stages throughout the leveling process suddenly is unappealing, at least until you get to 5, because each one that you get to max level, you get a boost to your XP gains for the next alt. So if I have 4 alts that are level 76, they're not getting an advantage. But if I take one of those alts and just go straight from 70 to 80, now the next 3 are going to have more of a boost in XP. So I feel like it's forcing us to operate on a more one at a time frame. And you know what? Maybe I just need to give up on this min-max mentality and go, you know what? I'm just going to play who I want to play. I want to level up, play my Shadow Priest for 2 levels. Go for it. Play my Havoc Demon Hunter for 2 levels. Go for it. Who cares? If I'm not optimizing my leveling speed, does it really matter? This is like the people who are like, oh, well, if you don't do this on brand today or this week, then you're basically ruined for the season. And is it really? Are you really toasted for the season? Or is it just not going to be perfect like it is for every whatever? I get frustrated with that. So, but I fall victim to it all the time. Trust me, I'm not immune. So, from that standpoint, yeah, I guess it would be better to just play whoever I want to play, but from a optimization and efficiency standpoint, yeah, one at a time is the best way to go. So that's unfortunate. I do enjoy leveling up a bunch of alts. And I've got to say, doing dungeons or doing heroics, I should clarify there, doing heroics this past or for the past 2 weeks has been an interesting experience because you definitely have people who want to go as fast as possible. They go in there and they pull the entire thing. I had a tank run into Cinderbrew Meteor and pull the whole group or pull the whole room. Yeah, that was hard. I struggled to heal that. So that was, and this was a leveling dungeon. This wasn't even a heroic. This was just a leveling dungeon. On my Death Knight running through, I definitely encounter people who are like, oh, you only pulled 3 groups? We'll help you. And they go and they pull the rest of the room, which is, to be honest, it's a little frustrating, but I mean, what do you expect? I will be glad to not have to run any more heroics after today. Although I'll probably run some just because if I get a character to 80 and they need a little bit of gear, I'll probably run a couple heroics. That's fine. But honestly, at this point, they're so frustrating. So, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to the raid. That's a big one, and we're going to talk about the raid today. That's going to be a big one. I wanted to talk about delves a little bit more in depth, but to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't do any delves last week. No, it's not true. I did 1 delve, and I was very careful not to use my bountiful key or whatever, the restored key. And I mean, I talked about delves last week. I'm not really thrilled with the implementation of them. I feel like 3 weeks into the season, delves are going to be great and everyone's going to be happy with them. But right now it's a little weird. This preseason period that Blizzard has given us, while we've had a preseason before, we've never had one quite like this because we've always at least had Mythic Zero to keep us busy. We've had things to do, and we don't have that right now. So yeah, it's a little frustrating, but, yeah, I'll be perfectly honest with the excitement of a brand new expansion and, oh, WoW is back and all this stuff. Honestly, I started playing some other games this week because I was like, you know what? I'm going to kind of chill until there's actually, air quotes, something to do. Because to be perfectly honest, there's really not a lot to do. Even for somebody as casual as me, I was just really like, I guess I'll wait until next week. So that's where we are on World of Warcraft right now. Honestly, I would rather play City Skylines than do another heroic dungeon, which is kind of sad. Although City Skylines is pretty awesome if you haven't tried that. I didn't buy the new City Skylines game. For those of you who know City Skylines, it's like SimCity on crack. But yeah, they released a new one and it was full of bugs and none of the add-ons worked and it was kind of a mess. So. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but I think it does say a lot for Blizzard that they are putting in World of Warcraft in a way that it's like, play if you want. We don't care. Play if you want to play. We'd like for you to be subscribed, but we're not going to trick you into being subscribed by going, ooh, Azerite power, ooh, artifact power, all this nonsense, the grinds that make no sense and really don't do anything good for the player base. They give you this extreme FOMO. Everything in the game seems to be driven by, show up when you want to show up. The only thing that I will say is these coffer keys. This just really bothers me. So I'm really hoping that I won't have to talk about this anymore and that it'll just be a moot issue and everything will be great with delves next week. So we'll see. I haven't logged on to the game yet. I've been busy with work. Work has been kicking my butt this week so far. So yeah, that's how it is. Right. So let's. I guess that's it for that's it for what I got to last week. All right. That's enough of that. Let's get on to the news.
it's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, we'll get to the anniversary stuff in a little bit. That was released right after we recorded. I think it came out on Wednesday. We did obviously Tuesday night, but we'll get to that in a minute. First off, let's talk about Classic, because I do love me some Classic discussion. So Blizzard has revealed the launch date for Season of Discovery Phase 5, and it is going to be September 26th. So that will be Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub, probably some new runes and stuff to discover in Season of Discovery. That's pretty cool. I'm really glad that they are keeping this moving a little bit. So it was July, August, September. So 8 weeks, about 8 weeks or 8.5 weeks. No, 10 weeks. It was 10 weeks because it was July 11th. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're keeping it moving along. This is not moving as fast as Season of Mastery did. If you'll recall, Season of Mastery was on this crazy truncated timeline. Not Season of Discovery. We'll probably get to Nax, I'd say the beginning of next year sometime, March or so. And who knows what else we'll get at that point. So, that's Season of Discovery Phase 5, Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub on September 26th. The PTR for Cataclysm Classic Phase 3 is currently going on. So that's the Rage of the Firelands patch. And Blizzard did announce that they are releasing the Molten Fronts, where you can do all the dailies for Firelands Rep, and I forget the name of the faction. It doesn't really matter. That's going to be released on September 17th. So we're going to get that a little bit early. My guess is that we're going to go Cataclysm. The Molten Front will be released, and then we'll get maybe 2-3 weeks, and then we'll get the launch of Phase 3, the Firelands raid. And I don't think the new dungeons come out until Phase 4, so it's just Firelands. So we're gonna get the Molten Front early, and then it will just be the Firelands raid. It's it's really unfortunate because I feel like Cataclysm did get kind of a bad rap, but part of that came from Blizzard themselves because they released the game and not all the content. I mean, we were supposed to get an underwater raid. We didn't get it because people didn't like Vashir. So they stopped working on it. I mean, I don't know that that's exactly what happened, but I mean, that's kind of what it seems like. So, what we got in Cataclysm, the content we did get was good. It was really good. The story wasn't great, but, the systems were good. The raids were pretty good. It was just, there wasn't much to do beyond, all right, you ran your raids, and you could run some heroic dungeons. Go run Zul'Aman again? I don't know. That's where an expansion like Dragonflight edges an expansion like Cataclysm is that Dragonflight, there was a lot to do by the systems that were built into the game, like Mythic Plus. So I guess, Dragonflight really... It hit so many high notes for people, but I think a lot of that came from the fact that it was following the Tales of Shadowlands. And so maybe it ended up being a lot better than or we thought it was a lot better than it actually was. I don't know. I guess we'll see in a few years where we rank Shadowlands 5-6 years down the road, or 3 or 4 expansions down the road. We'll see where Dragonflight lies. But as far as Cataclysm goes, I think Cataclysm definitely has a bad reputation that is honestly undeserved. The biggest flaw with Cataclysm, like I've always said in the past, is they destroyed the old world. They got rid of all those old quests. They got rid of the old storylines that everybody knew and loved for years, and they destroyed quest hubs. They destroyed areas that people liked, and they put in new ones that people didn't like. So I guess for old school players, especially Alliance players, I think Cataclysm was more rough. But a lot of people playing WoW nowadays, they're like, I started playing in MoP, I started playing in WoD, I started playing in Legion. So it doesn't really even matter. So to them, Cataclysm is just like a little curiosity. You're like, I wonder why this thing gets so much hate. It's pretty cool. But I guess we'll see. So I was going to do a I was going to do an update on all the numbers for Cataclysm and Season of Discovery, but to be perfectly honest, I don't want to focus on things like that because it's a really bad metric, and the people that do focus on that, I feel like are being disingenuous. So suffice it to say, Cataclysm is doing fine. Season of Discovery is doing fine. Yes, there are people who don't like one or the other for various reasons, and that's fine. There's a lot of WoW out there, even with Remix ending and with Plunderstorm not being around, and there's still a lot of WoW out there. You can still play Era, Hardcore, Season of Discovery, Cataclysm, or The War Within. So, you know what? We're still eating well. So enjoy this, because I don't know what the future is going to hold. Well, we do know some of what the future is going to hold. We'll get to that in a minute. But there you go. All right, in Modern WoW, so there were some hotfixes that came out. I am not going to read through the hotfixes because it was pretty basic stuff. Some class hotfixes, really nothing groundbreaking that I would say deserves to be discussed. But I will put a link to the hotfixes in the show notes if you're curious to see if anything changed for your class. Go ahead and check those out. Those will be in the show notes. So Blizzard announced, okay, before we get to the 20th anniversary, I know I'm pushing this to the end of the news because it's such a big story. So Blizzard did release a blog post called Going Solo in World of Warcraft, A Hero's Journey. Now, I wanted to talk to the great Dave Gagne, who's the host of a solo queue. But like I said, I've been really busy with work and I didn't get a chance to reach out to Dave. So hopefully we can talk about this a little bit in the future. But I definitely want to, I want to have some collaborations with Dave. So we'll get that going. But the whole idea of playing World of Warcraft solo. So it gives players suggestions on how to improve a solo play experience. And it shows some of the things that you can do by yourself that you don't need to be in a group for. All right, so first thing it tell you is to get in the game. Wow, that's a good job. Good job, Liz. Recommended leveling path. Exiles Reach level 1 to 10. Dragonflight level 10 to 70. The War Within level 70 to 80. So far, this is all pretty basic stuff. Everybody's doing this, even if you are not a solo player. Although the Exiles Reach suggestion, I think, is more of a, hey, we made this and nobody does it except for brand new players. So please go back and do it because we're really proud of it. And it is good. I prefer the old school leveling experience. So they say turn off chat channels. Type /leave and the channel you would like to leave to avoid player chat notifications. General, trade, local defense, services, and looking for group. The idea here is that if you want to play by yourself, you don't need to be talking to other people. If you want to pretend like it's a single player game, go for it. You can do that. Block any unwanted interactions. Turn off invitations to guilds or groups in the game settings. And block guild invites, restrict calendar invites, block chat channel invites, that sort of thing. So, it's the really basic stuff that people who play the game or have played the game for a long time know, but maybe somebody doesn't know if they're new or whatever the case may be. This is also really good for people with kids. If you want to have your kids play, but you don't want them to interact with other people, this is really good advice for them as well. The things that they suggest you can do, follower dungeons. You can do follower dungeons starting at level 10 because all of the Dragonflight dungeons are follower dungeon enabled. What that means is you can level up just through dungeons by playing by yourself. You don't have to get in any groups with any people. You just go with your follower group. I like the follower dungeons. I wish that the AI was a little bit better, but perfectly honest, it's good enough. If that's something that you want to do, and I've used follower dungeons a lot. I've used it for testing out new specs, new weak auras, to practice different things. It's really good. And the followers do kind of behave like boneheads sometimes, which is on point for WoW players. So I think that that's good. Follower dungeons is definitely a good activity to play by yourself. You can do follower dungeons with other people. So if you have up to 4 people, you could do a follower dungeon. And then whatever slot is missing will get filled in by an NPC follower. But if you are truly interested in playing by yourself, this is the way to go. Delves is a good one. Delves, absolutely, you can do by yourself. You can also do delves in a group, but you don't have to. It's a lot easier to do in a group if you are a caster DPS or a healer. or even some of the squishier melee DPS. But yeah, if you're a tank, you don't need a group. You could just steamroll, especially the lower level delves. I haven't had a chance to do anything higher than a 3 though, so I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, delves definitely a big one. Raid story mode. So this is not out yet. This comes out next week, and this will be the last encounter of the raid, which is Queen Ansarek, and this will be available to players to do. I think it's in groups up to 10 by just going and doing the boss and getting the story beats. The boss will have simplified mechanics, and it'll be really easy. So you'll get to, air quote, do the raid and do the mechanics, but a simplified version of it, easier than even LFR. And you can do it by yourself or with, like I said, groups of up to 10. So, playing solo doesn't mean having to be by yourself. You could have, like, say, somebody plays World of Warcraft and her husband wants to start playing, and she's like, okay, honey, let's just play together, just the two of us, and they can do that. So, these are all options that Blizzard is giving us, but these are all things you can absolutely do 100% by yourself. Pet battles is another one, and I have done pet battles on and off throughout the years since MoP. It's fun. And I usually do it for a little bit, and then I go, okay, I'm bored with this. But there's always world quests that are pet battle related. There's always you can do PvP pet battles, or you can go kill all the or challenge all the pet battle masters scattered throughout Azeroth. There's a lot to do with pet battles. It's actually quite an extensive game system that honestly not enough people play. And if you're really interested in it, there's a great resource that I had written down somewhere, and now I can't find it, but it's, I think it's like Pet WoW or something like that. But it's basically all the different pets, what they do, how they can interact with each other. Because it's like the whole Pokemon thing where it's like, oh, well, if you have a beast, they do more damage against critters. And if you have a magic user, they do more damage against machines or whatever. I don't know if either of those are true. I'm just pulling those off the top of my head. But the point is, pet battles are really fun. If that's your thing, go for it. Other things I suggest is you could use professions. You could sell wares on the auction house. You can interact with other players through the auction house. You don't have to interact with them directly. So the crafting order system is going to require a little bit more interaction with players, but you can definitely make stuff and sell in the auction house and make some gold. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do it all by yourself. So just some suggestions from Blizzard. I will post this blog post in the show notes. Definitely worth a read. And if you haven't already checked it out, I would definitely suggest check out a solo queue, World of Warcraft podcast by Dave Gagne. I'll put a link to his Spotify page in the show notes as well. He's definitely worth a listen. All right, let's move on to the big news. Ooh, boy, this was a big one. The World of Warcraft 20th anniversary celebration is coming in patch 11.0.5. Now, this is the important thing that Blizzard told us. Now, while there will be other things that happen during this patch that are not anniversary related, the anniversary is the patch. That is the patch content. We're not getting other. So if you remember in Dragonflight in patch 10.0.5, when we got the trading post, and that was the big feature of the patch, this anniversary event is the big feature of the patch, and it will last the entire length of the patch. Now, we don't know when it's going to be released. However, Blizzard did put in their blog post that it will run over the course of November and December. So theoretically, we could get it at the end of October, that last week of October. We could, but more likely we'll get it the very first week of November, and it will run throughout November and December. So, yeah, this is it's very exciting. So there was a WoWcast episode that was, and you know how I feel about the WoWcast, but there was a WoWcast episode that was released last week where they developers, including Holly Longdale, talk about the what they have designed for the WoW 20th anniversary and kind of how it's going to work. So a couple features that they talked about, that they announced that we're going to be getting. So first off, let's just start with the ugly parts. There's going to be a new currency. However, this new currency will be earnable by doing things in the world. So you're just going to get this currency. You'll have a weekly cap on your currency. Actually, it might be a patch cap that you'll just get you can get this much currency during the period of the anniversary. And so if you miss a week, you can come back the next week and get more because the cap will just keep raising every week. So we don't know exactly how that's going to work, but they did say that there's going to be this currency. Okay. The big content that we're going to get is the new BRD raid. So this is going to be a retooled Blackrock Depths raid for, I believe they set up to 15 players. And it will have Looking for Raid, normal, and heroic versions of this raid. And it will contain 8 bosses plus 5 mini bosses. And these are all current existing Blackrock Depths bosses. They're not adding anything new. They're not changing around. We're going to bring in a Molten Core boss, or no, this is all the same Blackrock Depths bosses that we all know and love, but they are going to be harder with different mechanics or modified mechanics. And they might position them a little bit differently throughout the dungeon, but it's going to be the regular bosses. So 8 and 5, 13 bosses total. 5 of them are going to be air quote mini bosses. I'm not exactly sure what that means as far as loot goes, but yeah, this is the new thing. This is new content. So I mean, this is great because we're going to have the Nerub-ar Palace raid that is going to be going for the next few weeks. And then probably, like I said, the beginning of November, we'll get a new raid that will last for 2 months. So hopefully you'll get a chance to try this out. I'm really excited about Blackrock Depths raid because honestly, Blackrock Depths is one of my favorite dungeons of all time. I've loved this one for forever. I mean, even in Classic, I remember going back and running it again, and it felt so good to never get my Hodge. I mean, it dropped. Don't get me wrong, it dropped. I just never got it because other people exist. I should go back to the solo blog post. Anyway, all right. So that's the new raid. There are also going to be 6 new time walking dungeons. Now, these are existing dungeons that are going to be tuned into time walking, and then after the anniversary event is over, they will fall in as part of the time walking rotation. So that is going to be Deadmines, Zul'Farrak, both wings of Stratholme, so the undead side and the live side, and 2 of the Dire Maul wings. So they didn't say which 2, but I can only assume it's going to be Dire Maul West and Dire Maul North, just because Dire Maul East is... Well, actually, no, I take that back. It'll probably be Dire Maul East and Dire Maul North because Dire Maul West is a nightmare. Trying to go around and get those towers, and then you have to go upstairs, and you have to go back downstairs, and you have to run back to the beginning, you have to go... But we'll see. We'll see what we end up getting. It might be East and West, and they'll skip Dire Maul North because it's too many ogres. Who knows? But we're going to get 2 wings of Dire Maul. So that's 6 dungeons total. And these are going to be the original versions of these dungeons, so it should be the original Deadmines with Mr. Smite and Van Cleef and all that. I'm really excited about that one. So yeah, that's the new thing. And they also mentioned, and this is I've been wondering about this for a while, and I have talked about this in the past, what they're going to do with time walking, but they said that these new classic dungeons will go into the rotation of time walking. They said not BFA, we'll have plans on that. So they're not ready to announce those yet. So whatever they're doing for Battle for Azeroth is going to be big. Maybe BFA remix, people? Just saying, maybe. That would... I'm actually kind of okay with that. Honestly, I'm okay with it. Yeah, so 6 new raids. 6 new dungeons in the time walking and the new raid. All right, we've got a lot of activities that they're going to be able to do during the anniversary event. There's going to be a mini trial of style called Fashion Frenzy. There's going to be a mount competition, which looked like it was going to be something akin to the NPC will get on a certain mount, and if you have the same mount as them, you get on your mount and you get a point. That's kind of what it looked like in the video that they showed, but they didn't specify how the game is going to work, so I guess we'll see. And Fashion Frenzy, like I said, it's like a mini trial of style, something to do with your transmogs. We don't know. There was going to be an ice skating rink, which I thought was really funny that they were so excited about this ice skating rink, because it's like, I hate ice in World of Warcraft. Anytime I get on ice, my character slides. It's so aggravating. But they were really excited about this ice skating rink. So it's like, you know what? That's fine. There's going to be 2 new world bosses, which are the Shaw of Anger and Archivon the Stonewatcher. So those are going to join Doomwalker in Tanaris outside the Caverns of Time. And then they're, in addition to Lord Kazak and Azurgos, and whichever green dragon happens to be the one. If it's, it's whichever the poison mushroom is. Oh God, I hate that. I even forgot the name. It's just aggravating me so much. Right. So that's going to be the new thing. Now, I did mention outside, so I forgot to say this at the beginning. All of the activities will take place outside of the Caverns of Time, not all the way down that big, long, winding. So you'll be able to do your activities. You'll be able to just fly into your activities and bounce, which is great. Okay. They're going to have a Chromie adventure where you go back in time to relive the opening of the Gates of Ahn'Qiraj. And apparently there's going to be some sort of time travel shenanigans where you have to fight monsters who weren't supposed to be there and blah, blah, blah. So that'll be kind of fun. The Chromie stuff is always really fun. I always really enjoy that sort of thing. So, you'll be able to go. And it's going to be a queued scenario, it looks like. So it's not like we're going to go and do the actual Gates of Ahn'Qiraj. So it'll just be a fun little thing, and hopefully we'll get something cool out of it. I don't know. We'll see. They're not giving us details yet. We're just getting the basics. Okay, Korak's Revenge will be returning. So if you enjoy Korak's Revenge, which is the original version of Alterac Valley, you can go do that. There will be transmog out the wazoo. So the big transmog news, of course, is the retooled high res tier 2 sets. So the original Blackwing Lair sets, including the famous Paladin Judgment set, the Warrior Wrath set, the Priest Oracle set, all that stuff. Those will all be. Was it the Oracle set? I don't think it was the Oracle set. It was the Transcendence. It was Transcendence. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. Whichever set it works for your class, those will all be available in kind of reimagined. So it's going to look and feel like the originals, but they're going to have, like the fancier belts, the fancy new pants, like for robes and stuff like that. So definitely check this out. They posted pictures of each of these sets on the WoW Twitter. And they all look great, even the ones that people didn't like very much. So I definitely think the Druid one, look at Storm Rage set, looks amazing. I can't wait to get that one. So how do you get these sets? Well, they didn't give us exact specifics on it, but I'm assuming it's tied to this new currency that we've got. So just know that you're not just going to get these sets. You're going to have to go earn them. Which means you're going to have to play the game in order to get transmog. So go figure. So this is like the huge news for me for this this patch. I love the tier 2 sets. I still wear Dragonstalker on my Hunter. I know a lot of people were kind of dogging on Dragonstalker, like, oh, the Hunter one's the worst. I love Dragonstalker. It looks fantastic. I think it's one of the best sets they've ever designed. A lot of people don't like it because it's bright and garish. The colors, it's the purple and the orange and that's okay. You don't have to like it. I like it. My Hunter likes it. She wears it all the time, so it's fine. They even have it with the helm, the dragon helm thing. These sets look great. I will post a link to the Twitter post that where they have the screenshots for all these. So I'll put that in the show notes as well, if you haven't seen them yet. But definitely check those out. I also posted them on the Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord yet, definitely you want to get on there, and you can check those out there as well. All right. Finally, there's going to be a new mount that we can get. So Blizzard gives their employees service rewards. So if you have been with a company for X number of years, you get a lot of places will do like, oh, you get a pin, or you get a wallet, or you get a hairbrush or whatever. Blizzard gives a sword and a shield for theirs. So the employees decided to take those service awards and turn them into transmog. So they've done that. And there's a new mount, which looks like a phoenix, but it's blue and white. And that one also will be available in the game. It's just a lot in this patch that we are going to be doing. Things that are not anniversary related, I want to hit these real quick. The Dracthyr will be able to choose from 6 new classes, which will be Warrior, Rogue, Hunter, Priest, Mage, Warlock. So that'll be really cool. You can finally get your Dracthyr Warrior going. They will also be able to have tandem flying, where they were going to be able to like do a formation with Soar, so that you have a bunch of Dracthyr flying all together, which it looked cool in the video. I can't really see any practical use for it, but it looks cool. So Warcraft is a game of rule of cool. So definitely check that out as well. There's a lot in this patch. I'm sure we'll get more information once the PTR goes live, and we'll be able to check some of this stuff out. So I'll probably talk about this again next week as we have more information that's available. But for now, just this is the patch. There's no the War Within content coming. There's no new delves. There's no new dungeons. This is the whole patch. But I'm okay with it because, like I said, we're getting a new raid. We're getting 6 new dungeons that we can use for leveling up. This is really good. This is a fantastic anniversary event. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. I thought maybe they would do like a Plunderstorm style event where we have to go fight bosses, or maybe some sort of like remix type thing. But this blew away all of my expectations. I am so excited about this patch. Honestly, in 20 years of World of Warcraft, it boggles my mind. I mean, I played Warcraft 2 back in, I don't know, the late 90s. And, to know that Warcraft itself has been around for 30 years is just blows me away. So, all right. I think that covers everything. If I missed anything, like I said, I'll talk about this again next week. But definitely, check this out. And if you want, you can leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment talking about what your favorite new feature is for this anniversary event. All right. That's enough of that. Let's get on to the main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
All right. Our main topic for this week is the launch of Season 1 for The War Within. Yay! Everybody's so happy. All right. So here's the deal. We've talked about the schedule a little bit in the past, but we're going to go over it again really quickly, and then we're going to do some deep dives into the raid, talk about some of the raid encounters, and go over all that. So, all right, first off, the season is now live. So what does that entail? All right, first of all, what we've been doing previously, running heroics over and 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 over again, we can still do that. But it will no longer be the 8 expansion dungeons. It will be the 4 Season 1 dungeons from the expansion and the 4 Season 1 dungeons from previous expansions. So the 4 dungeons from this expansion are City of Threads, Arakara City of Echoes, the Dawnbreaker, and the Stone Vault. Those are the 4 The War Within dungeons that we're going to get. We will not see the other 4 Priory of the Sacred Flame, Cinderbrew Meadery, gosh, I can't remember. The Rookery. And Dark Flame Cleft. Oh boy, that's going to be a fun one. We won't see those again until Season 2, unless you run a normal or follower dungeon. That's it. You will just not get them. I guess technically you could run them heroic if you zone in, but if you queue for a heroic, you're going to get the 8 Season 1 dungeons. So the other 4 dungeons that we're going to get are going to be Necrotic Wake from Shadowlands, Mists of Tyrna Scythe, also from Shadowlands, Siege of Borealis from Battle for Azeroth, and Grim Batol from Cataclysm. Not Cataclysm Classic. No, this is a reimagined or retooled, I guess is more appropriate, version of Grim Batol. So it's going to be a lot different than what we remember from Cataclysm, or what maybe you have been running in Cataclysm Classic. So yeah, big changes there on the dungeons. So that will be the heroics, and if you queue, like I said, if you queue for it, you're going to get those 8 dungeons will be your queue or your pool that you're going to pick from. We're going to get Mythic dungeons this week. So this is Mythic 0, as they're sometimes called. Dungeons will be available. Those are not queuable. You have to find a group, either from your guild or your friends or from the group finder. You have to physically go to the dungeon. You can summon people or whatever, but you actually have to go there. You can't queue into it. And you can't be teleported to it via the random dungeon finder. This is also going to be the 8 season 1 dungeons. So not any of the existing War Within dungeons, or sorry, it's so confusing the way they did it. So the 4 season 1 dungeons from the War Within and the 4 season 1 dungeons from previous expansions, the ones I already mentioned. So those are all going to be available for Mythic dungeon mode. Keystone dungeons will not be available yet, so you can't do Mythic Plus until next week. Okay, so that's the dungeons. Normal dungeons are going to be the same. They will be the 8, the War Within dungeons. Same thing with Follower dungeons, the 8 War Within dungeons. All right. As far as raid goes, actually, no, let's talk about delves first. So delves during the preseason were capped at tier 3. So we will be able to take our delves up to tier 11 now. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're going to be able to get better gear. So if you run a bountiful delve and you use the key at the end of it, you'll get really good gear depending on how high your delve goes. So if you run if you want to run the highest level or get the best gear from delves, let's learn to speak, Denethar. You have to run each tier in succession. So right now we've all done tier 3. So if you want tier 4, you got to go run that. Then you can run tier 5, then tier 6, etc. So if you want tier 8, you have to do all the previous levels combined, one right after the other. Or you don't have to do them in a row, but you have to complete each one of them. And then when you want gear, you're going to have to do a bountiful delve to get the best gear and use one of your coffer keys. So what does this mean as far as your daily end game routine? It's going to be checking which of the delves is bountiful by looking at the map. I'm sure there's an add-on for it or a week or something, but you can just check the map. It's pretty easy. It's whichever one is highlighted in yellow. And then so you have to go to the delve, make sure you have a coffer key, and then complete it. You will get 5 deaths. If you don't complete it within the 5 deaths, you won't get... I don't think you get the loot at the end. I don't know. I haven't done it yet. And from what I've heard, the higher level delves are pretty hard. So, and rightly so, because honestly, they drop really good gear. So right now, delves are going to be one of the highest pieces of gear that you can get outside of the raid. Actually, they are the highest. I think you can get champion gear from the world boss as well. But regardless, you'll be able to get champion gear from your tier 7 and tier 8 delves. And then that will also, you'll start collecting Great Vault slots. So you'll be able to, if you run a heroic dungeon, if you run a mythic dungeon, if you run a delve, all of those activities will give you slots in the Great Vault. So you'll be able to choose something next week. We won't pick anything from the vault this week, but the vault is active now. So starting next week, we'll be able to collect from the vault. So make sure you run your vault activities, check in your, if you're in Dornogal, you can click on where the vault is and it will show you what you have earned so far. I believe it's 1 dungeon, 4 dungeons, 8 dungeons will get you the 3 slots. And then it's, well, it was 4, 8, 12, but I think they lowered it to 2, 4, 6. I don't know what they changed it to. Honestly, I haven't checked because I haven't logged on since the servers came back up. So, all right, so that's delves. And it's important to keep in mind that if you want to level Bran, so assuming you got him to level 15 in the preseason, you want to go any higher than 15, you have to do a bountiful delve. He will not gain XP from a normal delve. All right. And just a reminder, you can do delves with other people. As I mentioned before, you can do it with a full party of 5. So if you're in a delve and you're struggling, I think the best thing would be to find a group in the group finder and burn through some delves. I mean, I know that the whole idea of delves is that it's soloable content, but I honestly feel like the content is not actually soloable unless you're a tank. So expect Delves to get a tuning pass at some point, because I feel like they're a little overtuned right now, especially for DPS and healing classes. So, all right. So that's Dungeons and Delves, not Dungeons and Dragons. That's a different thing. All right. As I mentioned, there's a new world boss. I don't have that one written down, but there is a new world boss. You can check it on the map. There will be a world quest for it. So yeah, definitely go check that out. The world bosses drop champion gear. So you're, especially early in the season, you're going to want to make sure you do that every week. All right, let's talk about the raid. So, the new raid is Nerub-ar Palace. The final boss is Queen Ansarek. It is an 8-boss raid. Yeah, so I did a little bit of reading on the raid and kind of did some research, not just for the show, but also for actually raiding. My guild's supposed to raid Wednesday, so we'll see how that goes. I'm still not sure if I'm tanking or if I'm DPSing. I will find out probably Wednesday night. So here's the deal. This new raid looks like it's pretty cool as far as the boss encounters and what you can do in the raid itself. But the big thing is there's flight paths on the map. So it looks like we're going to be able to zip around after we've killed a boss. We'll get a flight path, which I think that would be great. So, because that's one of my biggest things is trying to get around a raid. If you haven't, if you just zone in, it's a pain. So anyway, all right. So what's available? All right. Starting today, we've got normal raid will be available, and that will drop champion gear. Heroic raid will be available, and that will drop hero track gear. The first wing of looking for raid will be available this week. That will be veteran gear, and that's going to be the first 3 bosses. It is Ulgrax the Destroyer, the Bloodhound Horror, and Sikran, Captain of the Surukai. So, however you want to eat that word salad. So that's the first wing, the Skittering Battlements. And those 3 bosses are in the same order that you're going to do them in normal or heroic raid. Sometimes Blizzard releases raids and the order of the bosses is a little weird with the raid finder. This one's pretty straightforward. You're going to go in, you're going to get 3 bosses, boom, boom, boom. And that'll be that. Next week on September 17th, we will get the second wing, which is Secrets of Nerub-ar Palace. So this is Rashanan, and then Nexus Princess Kaiveza and Brood Twister Ovinax. Now, Brood Twister and Nexus Princess are, you can do them in either order. And that's the only time we're going to get this in this raid. So that's really the only choice that the raid leader has. They can go, we can go left, and we can do, or we can go right. Otherwise, it's a very linear progression on the raid, which I actually kind of like that. And maybe that's another reason why we've got the flight pass, because some raids circle back to the beginning, some raids you go down a long route. Yeah. And then, so on September 24th, we're going to get the final wing, which is the Queen's Fall, and that's going to be the Silken Court, which is the council boss, because Blizzard loves council bosses, and Queen Ansarek. Now, Queen Ansarek was not available for testing on the beta. So we did not have a chance to see the Queen Ansarek fight. All we have is what's in the dungeon journal. So rather than try to guess at what's going on with Queen Ansarek, we're going to kind of skip that one. And we're going to just go over each of the other 7 bosses, talk about the very, very basics of their mechanics, just so that you have kind of in your mind going into the raid what to do, how those bosses work, whether you're doing looking for raid, or if you're doing normal. I would assume if you're doing heroic raid, you've probably already done your research on these bosses, but regardless, I'm going to go over this. Primarily, this is for people who are kind of curious about the raid. Oh, should I check it out? Does it look good? It looks good. It looks really good. I didn't get to do any of the testing on the beta, but the fights themselves look pretty good. So, yeah, let's just go over some of the basic fights in the Nerub-ar Palace raid. So, starting with the first boss, Ulgrax the Destroyer. It's the first boss encounter of the raid. This is a 2-phase boss encounter. Basically what will happen is when the boss gets to 0 energy, then it'll transition to the second phase. And he'll just alternate between the 2 phases until he's defeated. The description from the Dungeon Journal is Queen Ansorek's evolutionary experimentation created a number of monstrous guardians for her throne. None more voracious than Ulgrax the Devourer. Driven mad by endless hunger, Ulgrax is now the ravenous protector of Queen Ansorek's court. Woo! This fight is really simple, and as all good first boss encounters should be. So basically the boss will throw webs down on the ground. Players will want to avoid those webs. The boss will pull all of the players to him. So he'll target somebody to pull, and then everybody's going to want to collapse onto that player so that they can all get pulled together, because the more players are in the pull, the weaker the pull is going to be and the easier it will be to resist it. So think about it as like a soak, where everyone needs to get together for the soak, but instead of a soak, it's a pull. So whatever. And then there's a tank swap move, which is called Brutal Crush, and it reduces incoming healing. So tanks are going to want to taunt when that goes out. That's all phase 1. When he gets to 0 energy, then it'll switch to phase 2, and this is the Feeding Frenzy. So he takes 99% less damage, so you have to do the mechanic or you're not going to kill him. And basically, he summons ads. The ads will need to be killed. You're going to want to kill the ads in a way that you can get to them easily. You don't want to kill them surrounded by webbing, because every time you get into the webbing, you're going to be rooted for 8 seconds. So you're going to kill all of the ads. Meanwhile, the boss will be charging across the room. So you're going to need to move out of the charge that he does. And then as you kill the ads, you're going to go click on the ad, and then you'll get a pick it up, and you'll get a action button that when you go up to the boss, you can feed him and restore energy to him. So when he gets back up to 100 energy, then the fight goes back to phase 1. That's the whole fight. That's it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, or easy peasy booty squeezy. However you want to do it. It depends on how risque you want to be. That's a good first boss fight, I think. I saw a video on this one. This one looked like fun. I'll definitely, at the very least, I will enjoy doing this boss in the raid. All right. The next boss is the Bloodbound Horror. So, this is a single phase boss encounter, and it's got an additional realm called the Unseeming, which this one's weird. I didn't watch the video on this one because I ended up missing this one for some reason. But basically, players are going to go into the others. It's just go into the underworld, whatever version, and then that's a big part of the fight. The description is: in the dark pits below Nerub-ar Palace, the blood of the old gods congeals in foul black pools. The blood-bound horror rises from this vile ooze, drawing everything in its path into the Unseeming. So there you go. So the keys here. So you've got Gruesome Disgorge is a frontal cone targeted on the tank. The tank should aim this at the ad spawn locations. Groups should alternate standing in the frontal, and then because you could when hit by the frontal, you're sent to the Shadow Realm for 40 seconds. Getting hit by 2 frontals back to back will likely kill you. So that's really that whole mechanic, and going into the Shadow Realm. Once you go into the Shadow Realm, you're going to get ads. So ads can only be killed by the players in the Shadow Realm. Lost Watchers are tanked. Black Bulwark must be kicked. You got to interrupt them. The Forgotten Harbingers are going to cast Manifest Horror. Small ads are summoned that will walk towards the boss. Don't let the ads reach the boss. Grasp from Beyond randomly debuffs players, causes players to drop puddles under them every second. Stutter Step when dropping as they explode after 3 seconds. So, Gore Splatter creates a massive AoE that needs to be run out of. Deals lethal damage to anyone within 60 yards of the boss. Leaves a heavy-hitting dot on all players. So, yeah, that's a fun one. And then for heroic mode, Spewing Hemorrhage, after Gruesome Disgorge, 2 laser beams cut the arena in half. The laser beams will spawn to the left and right of the boss. The tank not in the Shadow Realm should position so lasers don't cross the ads for as long as possible. And that's the whole fight there. So, this is a movement fight. This is a You got to go into the Shadow Realm. You got to make sure the ads don't get to the boss. You've got to coordinate this is a raid coordination fight. That's it. It's like I said, this is the second boss, and it is what it is. So, all right. Moving on, we've got Sikran, captain of the Surukai. Sikran established himself as an arrogant duelist within Queen Ansarek's court, never knowing the cut of an enemy's blade. Sikran dispatched his rivals one by one and was proclaimed captain of the Surukai by the queen herself. This indomitable fighter now ensures that any who threaten his queen fall before the throne's might. There you go. So this is a single-phase boss encounter. It's got a large emphasis on positioning, so this is really a good positioning fight. This is a simpler fight in comparison to the others, but can be quite punishing if mechanics are placed in inconvenient locations, so pay attention to your surroundings and where you're standing. Thus the positioning. Okay, so 4 abilities to pay attention to. Phase Blades targets 4 players and will dash to them in order. That's a pretty typical mechanic. Player's hit will leave a simulacrum when struck. In Heroic, any player hit by a dash will summon a simulacrum. Targeted players will have a purple line pointed at the next person. Move out of the group closer to the edge. Make sure no additional players are in the path of your line. And a rectangle will avoid players getting hit by multiple dashes. If you have something like a Deadly Boss Mods or Weak Arts or something, it'll probably announce that you need to stay out of lines. But otherwise, yeah. That's the whole mechanic there. Decimate. After Phase Blades casts Decimate on 3 players. Fires a damaging line through marked players. Any Cosmic Simulacrum struck will detonate. Deals AoE damage and leaves dots on for every detonation. And players should aim to hit as many simulacrums as possible. So you want to target the ads that were generated in the previous move with this move. Shattering Sweep. Cast after 2 Phase Blades and 2 Decimates. Run out of the circle and avoid 50% damage taken debuff. Any remaining Cosmic Simulacrums will detonate and deal bonus damage. And there you go. And that's why you need to get them in the previous phase. And then the tanks need to watch out for Expose and then Phase Lunge. So he will cast 2 Exposes and then a Phase Lunge. So you're going to want to taunt swap after the 2 Exposes so you can switch who gets the Phase Lunge. That's pretty much the whole fight. So there you go. We're 3 bosses in, and so far this raid is pretty straightforward. It's the first raid of the new expansion, and if you remember anything from Fault of the Incarnates, the first few bosses were actually pretty easy. It wasn't until you started getting to the wing bosses that things got a little bit more difficult. All right. The fourth boss is Rashanan. Now, if you recall from the Dawnbreaker, Rashanan was the final boss in there. We get him to 60% health and then the dungeon ends. So in the raid, he will actually start with 60% health because he's wounded. So this is important for abilities that are affected by when the boss is at 100% health, like Hunter's Mark and things like that. So just keep that in mind. Twisted by Ansarek's experiments, Rashanan was transformed from a proud Nerubian into a monstrous winged horror. Trapped within her new form, shattered memories of her... so it's a she. Shattered memories of her former self drive Rashanan into an unquenchable rage. There you go. Okay, so basically, this fight is... I don't like this fight. This one I don't like. All right, Rolling Acid. So this is very similar to the one in the Dawnbreaker, you'll recall. So you'll get a green line will show up on the screen, and there will be a thicker edge, and then it'll kind of taper out. And what will happen is the acid will roll the direction of the thicker part of the green that will show up. So players will want to move that to the other edge of the raid. You don't want to go opposite direction because then it will just roll over everybody and you'll probably wipe. Spinneret Strands drops a puddle of webs on targeted players. After a few seconds, webs are placed outside of the group. Players are tethered to their web and should run away to break it. So this is just break the web. Any extra player hit by the initial web is also tethered. Infested Spawn spawns ads on targeted players after a few seconds, move into melee so ads spawn together, and can be CC'd and killed. So this is just a collapse mechanic. Fly away, Rashanan will periodically fly away to a different part of the arena, chase the boss down, and interrupt acidic eruption. The tank mechanic is Savage Assault, so she will cast Savage Assault 2 times in succession. The tanks will want to swap on each one. If you can, stuff like that. Those are tough. And I feel like a lot of times tanks end up eating like 3 of those in a row or something. But in this case, so she'll cast 2 in a row. So more than likely what will end up happening is tanks will swap after 2. But, you will have to evaluate that within your own group. And in Heroic, you will get Web Reeve, targets the ground with a Meteor effect, which all players should soak. Pulls players towards the boss with the focus split amongst all targets. If less than 4 people soak, all players are pulled off the edge. So don't wipe your group. All right. Next up is Brood Twister Ovinax. So Ovinax, deep within the bowels of the Queen's Palace, Brood Twister Ovinax conducts abominable experiments with the black blood found in Ashgahet. This corpulent horror lumbers through the palace's cavernous depths, regurgitating inky sludge onto hatchlings to observe its gruesome effects. Oh, whoever wrote these was just having way too much fun. This is just... Oh boy, that's good stuff. So this is a single phase boss encounter with a lot of ads that you're gonna have to deal with. It's a lot of ads and different things depending on where you are in the boss's arena. So here's the thing. The room layout is really important for this one. The area is separated into 3 sections, each containing eggs. There are 3 types of eggs and ads that will hatch from them. Each section has one type of egg that is more dominant. So you've got the more big eggs, more medium eggs, some more egg clusters. There you go. All right, ingest the black blood. At the start of the fight, the boss will activate the closest section. Sanguine overflow will slowly expand from the edge of the room. If the overflow reaches an egg and hatches, it is empowered. After the previous section is filled, the next closest is activated. We recommend this order: big eggs, medium eggs, and then clusters of eggs. So there you go. The experimental dosage targets 2, or in Heroic 4, players with a debuff that will hatch eggs. Any eggs in the purple circle will hatch and summon ads. Each player should hatch their own egg and prioritize eggs closer to the overflow. Oh, this one sounds like a nightmare, honestly. Okay, so for the egg types, you have big eggs. Big eggs will summon a big spider that needs to be tanked. So the spider will cast Vicious Bite, which increases its damage by 25%, and Empowerment, which 50% health and reduces healing on the tank. This you're going to want to burn those down fast because they will just start stacking damage. Medium eggs will summon an immovable worm that will need to be interrupted. The Poison Burst deals high raid damage if successful, and Empowerment, 50% health and increased cast speed. Oh boy. All right, and then finally, the egg clusters. The egg clusters spawn 4 small parasites that fixate random players. Parasites infest their target, dealing damage and summoning 2 more parasites. Parasites should be crowd controlled. And their empowerment is 50% health and stacking movement speed. The big tank mechanic is Volatile Concoction, and when the debuff expires, the lower the tank's health, the more damage the raid takes. Use defensives to be healthy at the end. Tank swap on every debuff. And in Heroic, you get Sticky Webs. Randomly applies a 70% slow to players. Maintain a loose spread and call for a Dispel when alone. Applies a root to any players that are nearby when dispelled. Okay, yeah, this fight sounds like a nightmare. It's a lot going on, and I'm not looking forward to that one on Heroic. I'll tell you that right now. All right. Then we've got Princess Kaiveza. So Nexus Princess Kaiveza arrived at Nerub-ar Palace only recently, quickly establishing herself as a confidant of Queen Ansarek. However, rumors abound within the inner court that she may harbor a dark and deadly secret. If discovered, the princess is prepared to dispatch all witnesses without mercy. So if you recall, when, what's his name now? I can't remember. The Locust Walker told Alaria that when the Ethereals heard the Radiant Song on their world, that was followed by Demencius appearing and devouring their world. So Nexus Princess Kaiveza is a Ethereal or something similar. So what's the play here? We don't know. I guess we'll find out. So this is a single phase boss encounter with intermissions in between. Each Between each intermission, the boss gets more difficult in mechanics. Defeating her quickly is encouraged. Players should also watch for Reaper, an execute attack that happens when a player drops below 10% health. So healers, beware. All right. The mechanics on this fight are assassination. Targets players dropping an untargetable clone when it expires. Place each debuff on a hexagon corner. Each cycle will add one more assassination. So as the fight goes on, it gets harder. Nether Rift. After assassination, the boss and clones summon a Nether Rift on them. This pulls all players to their location and kill any player that enters. If rifts are spread, the pull will likely cancel out. If rifts are on the same side, players will be heavily pulled. So you got to spread out the rifts. Twilight Massacre. Each clone picks one target and will charge them after a few seconds. Clones will have a line showing the direction they will charge in. The clone that is targeting you will have a red line. Players should then charge their clone directly outwards. Nether Rift will be cast again at the new boss and clone locations. Oh boy, there's a lot going on here, man. Okay, and then in Heroic mode, we've got Dark Viscera. Players hit by Assassination or Twilight Massacre get Queensbane. When Queensbane expires, it releases orbs. Get out with Queensbane so that the orbs take longer to reach the group. There you go. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, you get Regicide, attaches line telegraph to random players. Dodge other telegraphs while not moving your telegraph. Mechanic is identical to Pharax Blaze. So if you remember that one, that's what you got to do. Heroic Eclipse. So this is heroic mode. The room is divided into 6 pie slices. 2 pie slices will light up and detonate every couple of seconds. The detonations will travel in a clockwise fashion, so you got to constantly be moving. So this is great for classes that have to casters. Yeah, this fight also sounds nasty. Just nasty. And as I mentioned earlier, Brood Twister, Ovinax, and Princess Kaiveza are alternate 5th or 6th boss. When you kill Rashanon, then you get to decide if you want to go right or left, basically. And I believe Ovinax is right and Princess is left. Doesn't matter. You'll pick one. All right. The final boss that we have information for in the lead up to this is the Silken Court. So it's Anubarash and Skein Spinner Takaj are the 7th boss encounter in Nerub-ar Palace Raid. Anubarash and Skynspinner Takaj are Queen Ansarek's most trusted advisors, yet these two powerful Nerubians harbor a hatred for each other, even more powerful than their loyalty to the throne. While unleashing their considerable strength onto their enemies, each also fights to ensure their counterpart doesn't survive. This sounds like a blast. I also did not watch a video for this one. So this is a 3-phase boss encounter, and each new phase features an enraged boss intermission with a lot of moving parts. To this fight, players will need to play at their best to ensure success for the team. Okay. In phase 1, web bombs. Web bombs are periodically thrown on the ground, following or slowing an area. Step in the middle to trigger the web bomb. If 2 players are inside, they are connected with binding webs. Web pairs should get connected with binding webs in phase 1. Leaving the large circle will break the link. Excuse me. Reckless Charge. Anubarash burrows and tries to charge across the arena. Stop the boss by making him charge into binding webs. In Heroic, 2 binding webs are needed to stop the charge. Golly. Web pairs should extend their web over the charge path. Anubarash takes 100% more damage for 12 seconds when stopped. Okay. Then in the first intermission, we have Shatter Existence. Takaj teleports to the middle, shielding herself. 2 pie slices will fill up at a time in random order. The pie slices will then detonate in that same order. Stand next to the first slice, then step into it after it detonates. Okay, phase 2. We have Web Vortex. Takaj pulls everyone in and then casts an AoE around her. All players will be connected with binding webs. Run out and spread out from your partner to break the webs. Stinging Swarm. 3 random players will get the Stinging Swarm debuff. When dispelled, this debuff will jump into the closest player or Takaj. For each stack on Takaj, she takes more damage. All stacks must be transferred to Takaj before Cataclysmic Entropy. Stack 1, dispel when the player is in position. Stack 2, dispel when the boss teleports in the middle. And stack 3, dispel before the cast finishes. Second intermission, Spike Storm. A Nerub-ar teleports to the middle, shielding himself. Rings will spawn on the intercardinals and slowly expand. Getting hit by a ring will stun you until the spike is destroyed. Phase 3, all abilities. All abilities except Web Bomb are active. Keeps and binding webs from Web Vortex for reckless charge, and handle Stinging Swarm identically. So that's the that's the fight. Oh man, yeah, that's a very heavy movement coordination. This is everything. This fight actually sounds cool. It just also sounds ridiculous and annoying. All right, so that's the whole raid. I will post so these are all taken from the Wowhead guides. They put up some really good descriptors and these cheat sheet infographics that you can look at. I would definitely suggest checking those out if you are planning to go into the raid, just so you have an idea of what's going on. You can also check out a video. That's probably really helpful to a lot of people, to just watch a video. There's some quick 2 or 3 minute videos that go over each of the boss encounters. I would definitely check those out. But overall, this raid looks like a really good intro raid. The first 4 bosses are pretty basic, and then it gets harder from there. The last 4 bosses are going to be really tough. And honestly, that's how I like WoW raids. Low barrier to entry, but a high barrier for completion, especially on Heroic. And we haven't even seen Mythic yet. I'm sure that's going to be bonkers. But yeah, definitely go check out the raid. Even if you just do looking for raid, it'll be the first 3 bosses. This raid looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I definitely hope people check it out. So, all right, that's I think that's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and talk to you, and to really just share my love of World of Warcraft and of talking about it. Honestly, I've just been having a blast with the podcast, and yeah, I'm having a good time. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on Twitter. I am at Denethar. I also do occasionally stream, although I wanted to stream a lot more going into the new expansion, and I haven't had the time. But I do still occasionally stream. So I'm Denethar01 on Twitch. You can also check out my YouTube channel, which is at Denethar01. All of the Azeroth United podcast videos are uploaded to YouTube and to Spotify. So if you want to check out the video podcast, you can. You can see my as my wife calls it, I have a face made for radio. But I'm doing the videos anyway, so there you go. Yeah, so you can check those out on Spotify or YouTube. And all of the links for Azeroth United will be in the link tree. That's linktr.ee/Azeroth United. And I'll have that in the show notes as well. So you could just click on that and it'll take you to our Discord server. It'll take you to our YouTube channel, our Twitter account for the podcast and all that stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm having a blast. Really enjoying this, and love to see more people jump onto the Discord. We've already got a bunch of people on there, and I'd love to have some more people get on there. If for nothing else, then to generate some conversation about what we could do in the show. I've gotten a lot of good suggestions already about the directions that I can take the show going forward, what people think would be good, and I'm definitely taking those into heart. At the end of the day, I'm going to do the podcast that I enjoy doing, and I really feel like you have to, if you're doing any sort of content creation for World of Warcraft or for anything, if you're doing YouTube videos or whatever you're doing, you have to stay true to yourself. There's a lot of people who do YouTube and they put on an act. They portray a character and it's acting, and I feel like, yeah, okay, there's people that can do that. But for me, I feel like it's important to just be who I am. This is who I am. This is me, whether I'm doing a podcast or if I'm sitting around having a beer with a friend. This is who I am, and that's who I'm going to be, and that's how the podcast is going to be produced. So, yeah, there you go. All right. I think that's everything. Wrap up here. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to mention. I have gotten a couple people reach out to me about getting some guest spots on the podcast, doing some guest interviews and things like that. I will be getting some of that coordinated here in the future, so keep an eye out for that. I definitely want to expand the podcast beyond just me talking about World of Warcraft, and I'd really like to get some more people involved. So I will be reaching out to people and responding to those who have already reached out to me. So thank you for that. And yeah. So anyway, that'll do it. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real person on the other side of that computer screen. And, maybe this is their first time in the raid. You know what? It's your first time in the raid too, so don't be a dick. It's okay to be nice and just smile, be kind to each other, and just be happy. We're all playing a video game and having a good time. So, all right. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.